In this video, I'm going to teach you how you can rotate a GUI object. Rotating GUI objects has a number of uses. For example, creating a GUI compass or waypoint marker. It also allows for additional customization in the layout of labels and tabs in an interface. Unity GUI controls don't come with functionality to rotate by default. However, we can use the information we learn here to create our own copies of GUI controls, as well as our own controls, that will be able to rotate. The contents of all GUI elements are defined by a GUI content object. GUI content can be a string, texture, or both, with the option to define a tooltip. Since GUI content is the base content of a GUI element, we'll focus on being able to rotate that. For this example, we'll rotate a box control with our GUI content inside. However, it's possible to alter this code to rotate any GUI control, like a label, button, or anything else. Let's take a look at this in code. Here we have a rotatable GUI item, which is going to take a size, rectangle, and pivot point. The pivot point is going to be calculated by defining an x-axis pivot point and a y-axis pivot point. These two have the option of being center, min, or max, giving us 9 total options for pivot points. The 4 corners, any of the middles of the 4 edges, and the center point. Initializing a new rotatable GUI item is going to create the rectangle that we're going to rotate, as well as the pivot point. Getting the pivot point is going to take the source rectangle and the 2 pivot point axes to give us a point on screen in which we'll rotate around. Setting the pivot point, we'll update the pivot point axes and calculate a new pivot point using getPivot. Drawing our rotatable GUI item is going to begin with begin draw rotated. This is going to take the angle that we want to rotate, create a backup of our current matrix, and use the GUI utility rotate around pivot, providing our angle and the pivot point calculated earlier. When we're done drawing our GUI box, we're going to call endDrawRotated, which is simply going to restore the backed up matrix. Let's take a look at a test interface that utilizes this. Here we're going to create a new rotatable GUI item and a new GUI content. We're going to calculate the size of this content in order to determine the size of our rotatable GUI item. In the update method, we're going to accept the A and D key to increase or decrease the angle we want to rotate. Finally, in the onGUI method, we're going to draw our rotate string with rotateString.draw. Let's take a look at this in Unity. Here we see our GUI content being drawn, and pressing the A and D keys will rotate our object. In this video, we've learned how we can rotate GUI controls. The ability to rotate GUI controls adds additional flexibility to your layout options and interaction with the player. Keep in mind that if you're going to have a control that's always rotated, it is likely better to create the asset for the control as it should be displayed. There are performance impacts to consider when rotating GUI controls, and if we could avoid rotating them every time, it's best we do.